Oh, Good evening, everyone. Glad to see so many of you have come here tonight, and quite a few familiar faces from last week and the week before. Is anyone here new, brand new? 1, 2, 3, 6. Okay, great. So my name is Mark, by the way. I'm a student at Tara Institute. So each week is self-contained. So anything you've picked up from previous weeks, you can enrich, if you like, because you'll hear some of the same themes today, and maybe a few new ones as well. So to add to your knowledge and understanding of introduction to Buddhism. So which is what this is about. So with that, so there's a big picture behind me. There's His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So today's the Tibetan New Year, the year of the metal mouse. So the mouse is a very resourceful animal, I'm led to believe. Very social, and also acting in the interests of the group as well. And it's a metal mouse, so there's a bit of entrepreneurship and magnanimity about the metal mouse year. So this is the start of the year, the Tibetan New Year. So I have a Tibetan calendar at home, so I look at it and go, okay, it's like, because I don't know anything about astrology that much, but I know that in Buddhism, in Tibetan Buddhism in particular, they put particular store on certain dates to do practices. So that's something we'll cover a little bit, because we'll talk a little bit about the law of cause and effect, or karma. So we think of cause and effect as us, we're doing an action and then there's a result, and but there's also, if you like, an environmental karma that we have, that we all share together to be here tonight, to be in Australia. So there's a little bit of collective or environmental karma there, and so this sort of idea of auspicious dates, if you like, you could think about it as being, it's collectively an auspicious time. So particularly with the Tibetan New Year, they talk about that it's a multiplying day. So any good action that you do, instead of it being like that, it's a millionfold increase in merit, for want of a better word, if it's a good action. So you can see how there's a little bit of, all right, if I do my meditation, have a good motivation throughout the day, don't harm anyone, benefit people, dedicate, instead of it being that much, it's millionfold. So, and because you've dedicated it, and we'll come to this later, then that's protected, and so the bounce back results for you are magnified quicker, more quickly. So that's with good actions. Unfortunately, the converse is true also. So if I'll tee off on that person because I don't like them, or I cut someone off in traffic, all those things, or we get angry, or we get jealous, or whatever it is, we get competitive. We can do so many things that are not so good and harmful to others during the day. So those actions during these types of auspicious day, or multiplying days, are magnified as well. So it's sort of so in Buddhism we're sort of on our guard a little bit, that all right, those magnifying days are good, and if we're doing good things, fabulous. But we're trying to obviously on watching our minds all the time, but particularly on days like that. So it's also the start of the 15 days of miracles. So this is when the Shakyamuni Buddha appeared. So when he achieved enlightenment, there were quite a few people who were, one, jealous that he achieved enlightenment, and then two, couldn't believe that the people who were previously following them were suddenly gravitating towards the Buddha's teachings. So anyway, the Buddha, over that 15-day period, he performed certain miracles, because he was a bit averse to doing that, because it's a bit showy, isn't it? If you can do something that's miraculous, to actually display it in Buddhism is not seen as perhaps the right thing to do, because you're showing off a little bit. Does everyone sort of understand that idea? So anyway, the Buddha sort of very reluctant said, no, I'm not, he was telling his students, don't do it. If you have some attainment, just don't show it, keep it hidden. But on this occasion, a few times he displayed some miraculous behaviour. So I won't go through all those, you can read about them if you like, but suffice to say that's 15 days worth that occurred during the time, just after the Buddha had achieved enlightenment. And so we celebrate that too, the 15 days of miracles. So there's quite a lot happening with the year of the metal mouse. So just the beginning of it, and obviously His Holiness's image is here because His Holiness is the head of the. Well, he's not the head of the Gelugpa tradition, but he's the premier master in Tibetan Buddhism, and he's from the Gelugpa lineage that we follow here. So he's a very erudite master. So he's sort of very much, he knows all the classic texts from the Buddha to now. So, but he can convey them in such a way that even someone like me who hasn't studied in a monastery and can understand, can comprehend, can get something out of. So I'll be relaying a few of His Holiness's different sorts of different statements tonight. So, here's one. So this is for the new people, but this one is: all beings want happiness and don't want suffering. So, I think for those of you who've been here before, I didn't think, did anyone sort of fundamentally disagree with that statement? What about some of the new people? Do all beings want happiness and not want suffering? Yeah, there's probably, I don't think there's anyone who wants the opposite. They bring on the suffering, and happiness I don't want. So we all have that desire for seeking happiness. So even they say a small being like an ant, which is a bit hard to comprehend, but even a small being like an ant has a sense of I and a sense of I want happiness. And how that happiness is, if I gather enough food for what do they call an ant colony, huh? Gather the food, take it back to the ant colony, fulfill my function, and don't get trampled, that's happiness for that ant. So we're a little bit more complicated. In fact, we're a lot more complicated, but we have the same fundamental idea. We want happiness and we want to veer away from suffering. So His Holiness, he says that wish for happiness and not wanting suffering is a fundamental human right. So when we hear of countries where away you go to prison and you'll disappear and you're tortured and that, so that's the opposite of what His Holiness is saying. He's saying it's a fundamental human right to want happiness, not want suffering. So for someone to take that away from you, it's a disgrace. So it's not right. So and there is a little bit of thought of that's a Western view of the world, that all beings should be equal, like democracy, sort of a equal right. But in other countries who are more autocratic, it's fine if they're sort of a persecuted class, and then a very rich class or a powerful class. But in Buddhism, we say that's not right, because you're trampling on that person's happiness. So yep.
You actually saying desire by happiness, but for me that's conservation.
Yes, a desire. So that's a very good question. So is desire, it's considered an afflicted mind at times. So you go, is it right to have a desire for happiness? So His Holiness is pointing to, yes, that particular desire or wish is unmistaken. But with happiness, the way we normally search for it or seek it is we jump towards the external object for happiness. It's usually a person or a thing or something we can hold on to, and in Buddhism, all those things, whether it's wealth or knowledge, power, attractiveness, good karma, all those things play their part in happiness. But the main determinant of a person's happiness is the state of mind. What's that? They do use the term desire for happiness, so but not in as in I'm chasing for something that's because generally. So I'll give you an example. If you have desire for a person, like as in that person is so attractive. I'll put on a voice. That person's so attractive, and she makes my heart sing and all. So generally there's an overestimation, isn't there? Sometimes of the quality of that person. Just and I don't know whether it's that much over or way over, but there's generally that overestimation of that person that will make me so happy because they're perfect. So, and this is where the swing is. Buddhism is saying, well, that person's got good qualities, and sure you can have a relationship, but trying to not overestimate that person and yourself in terms, and then swinging back to the source of the happiness being from within. So you can still have a relationship with a person, so there's no problem with that, but you're more realistic about them and yourself, and you're more content because the happiness is it's coming from inside. So so if there's a change in the relationship, you'll feel that it's very sad, it's finished, it's whatever, but you won't be so devastated that you can't recover. So that's an important difference. So the state of mind there is protecting you in quite a significant way. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. So, and again, if it's different for us as lay people. So when the monks and nuns in the monasteries and nunneries, they talk about attachment, and they've got vows that protect them, that make them keep them celibate, watch their behaviour, make sure they're not in close proximity to objects of desire that could just distract them too much or whatever, and they're guarded. They're very guarded in their behaviour to protect their vows. So we're in a different boat. So as in a different set of circumstances. So we're lay people, general relationships. We've got families, kids, partners, etc. So we have to approach it a little bit differently, but we can still have that fundamental search for happiness swinging back into coming from the mind itself. That's what you're relying on for happiness. So if the external things come, fabulous. If they don't, it's still fine. So you have some contentment, so some peace. So the peace and happiness. So this is from Geshe Doga, the resident teacher here. He says the peaceful mind is a happy mind. So you've all heard me saying that. So the peaceful mind is a happy mind. So the means that Geshe Doga describes to attain that happy mind is the practice of meditation. So, we'll do a little bit of meditation in a few minutes. So Geshe Doga talks about the person as being the combination of the body and the mind together, and you need both for happiness. So this comes down to if the body's needs are not being met, so I haven't enough to eat, or I'm really sick, wretched, so then it's very difficult to meditate, isn't it? Because you're just focused on I'm so sick and bring me the thermometer. It's where's the doctor? I'm dying. So it's like that when you're physically not well. So Geshe Doga talks about this sort of having this harmony between the body and the mind. So you need a good relaxed body, and then you need also a peaceful, happy mind. And so you need both, but then this comes back to the point, the mind's the most important aspect of those two, the body and the mind, because Geshe Doga gave an example. He said, if you have a good, happy, peaceful mind, it can affect the health of the body. And I thought, okay, yeah. And you can see if you can, meditate and pacify your mind and it's calm, you have a few things going on in terms of your heart rate. Will it go up? Your pulse, it'll sort of drop, won't it? And then they've done some studies, the people who can get into that really peaceful, calm state, their brain waves change. So they're not asleep, or dead, or dying. So this is all occurring while they're conscious. But their brain waves change to a much more deeper, more relaxed state, and more clear state. So that's been measured, if you like, through university studies. That's the effect. So they plug them in with probes and stuff, and then they say meditate. So just relax and meditate. But they're able to do it. So they're able to bring on that state, and it can be measured, and you can see there's a change in the pattern. It's different to the awake state, just more relaxed, more clear, more long-lasting. So anyway, I digress. So, but anyway, just Geshe Doga's point, it's that the mind is the main determinant of happiness. So let's do a little bit of meditation. So for those of you who are new, you can be sitting or on a cushion or in a chair. So the main thing is to have your back straight. So in our tradition, we have the left hand underneath the right, and then your thumbs are touching, pointing back towards the navel, and your hands are on your lap, and it's sort of a couple of finger widths below the belly button where your thumbs are, and your arms are not tucked in but just a little bit out, and that allows the flow of air through. That's good. Yep. And thumbs back the other way. That's it. Good. And then so this thumbs, it generates an element of warmth in there, so it activates quite a nice feeling of love as well. So the meditation we're going to do is breathing meditation. So we're going to be breathing through our nostrils. So we'll have our mouths closed, and our tongue's going to be touching the top palate, and we're just going to be breathing in and out through the nostrils. And our eyes are going to be sort of almost fully shut, but just a little bit open to allow the impression of light. Okay, so we'll just do that for a few minutes. So as you're breathing in, you can visualise, imagine or feel that you're breathing in enlightened energy that's relaxing you, giving you a good feeling. And then as you're breathing out, you can visualise that all your worries and concerns, anxieties are being breathed out. So we'll just do that for a few moments. So then when you're relaxed enough, just focus on the sensation of the mental image of the breath as it goes in and out through the nostrils. And we'll just do that for a few minutes, and if you're do that, try and just, you can count if you want, but just try and keep your focus on the breath. And if you find your mind is wandering, just gently bring the attention back to the breath. So just when you feel ready, just bring your attention back to the room and open your eyes. So the tool of meditation, so that breathing meditation, so it's sort of called a focus meditation because you're just focusing on the one point, which is the breath as it goes in and out through the nostrils. So in some texts, the breath is considered a neutral object, so it's not positive or negative. So it's getting a bit technical, but from our point of view, we can say it's a positive object of meditation. So and we'd be 100% right. So because we're enabling the mind to settle into a state of peace and relaxation. And if we follow Geshe Doga's thinking, a peaceful mind is a happy mind. So from that sense of peace that we have while we're doing the meditation, there's a state of happiness that will result. So using the breath, is it easy to... Did everyone find it easy to settle into a... Yeah, quite a few people nodding their heads, that's good. So I think some people have been doing meditation for a while, huh? And I think some of you have been coming to Monday nights for a while too, as well, so that's very good. So the more you practice meditation, the better you get at it. So it's like anything. I can't drive. I'm 17 years old. Like, there's no way I can drive a car, no way. And then a year or so later, you're hooning around on the road. So it's true though, isn't it? When there are things you go, I can never do that, I can never do that, and then with practice you can do it. So it's the same with meditation. So there's nothing more mysterious than that. So So when we're focusing on the breath in and out, then we're, if you like, not trampling down, but we're not aware or we're not focusing on the problematic states of mind. So I've mentioned in the past few weeks there are two sorts of there's certain thoughts, and then there's these afflicted minds that come from it. So as we're focusing on the breath, we're not focusing on those things. So the first one are discursive thoughts. So just a refresher for that, discursive thoughts are seemingly random thoughts that will appear to us as we're trying to focus on the meditation, or anything for that matter, even if it's, oh, I've got an assignment to write. The discursive thought will be, oh, that TV show's looking good. You know, I really must watch that. You know, so on their own, there's no harm. You think, oh, there's no harm in the discursive thought. It's just but because it takes you away from your chosen object of meditation, then it can lead to an afflicted mind. So we talked about desire before. So that's a very good example. So, oh, that television show's on, my assignment's here. The assignment's sort of pushed aside. I'll just watch 10 minutes of it. And then 3 hours later, your assignment's nothing's started on the assignment, but you've watched 3 hours of a show. So the attachments, the discursive thought, and then the desire has taken you away from what you wanted to achieve. So when you're doing the meditation, the discursive thoughts are, if you like, they're suppressed or subdued, and certainly the afflicted minds, you'd hope, are subdued. So, and the breath's very good at that because it's very natural, in and out, breathing, so very good, and you're not having to think up anything esoteric or you can just, everyone can focus on the breath. So, so with the discursive thoughts, so Geshe Doga's talked about it disturbs you while you're aware or awake, but it can also disturb you while you're trying to sleep, huh? Has someone got an example? Yep. How does it disturb you when you're trying to fall asleep or trying to sleep? Yes. Yeah, okay. Yes. Okay, yeah. So that's a very good example there where the discursive thought leads to anxiety, to panic attacks, and then the dreams are impacted. So instead of a restful night's sleep, it's like tossing and turning and trying to solve the problem, but you can't even relax. You can't relax. So there's so that discursive thought's there while you're trying to meditate, while you're aware, and also can occur when you're trying to sleep, which isn't very good. So anyway, I mentioned last week I did try the breathing meditation falling asleep after I was feeling a bit anxious, and maybe not to that lady's extent, and I found it worked very well. So I was able to go, a bit like count sheep, huh? One sheep, two, anyway, but I lost track after a few sheep, but it's sort of like, you get the idea, so taking your attention away from whatever thought or worry and just concentrating on the breath, and then you relax into it. And then I went into the sleep pattern. So I've got one of these watches. I think most people have got them, or they've got them on their phones, and they measure sleep cycle, heart rate. Now I don't know how scientific it is, so I'm still yet to look into it, but I did notice that when I woke up, I'd actually had half an hour extra sleep instead of half an hour of discursive thoughts and worries. So that was good. So that was just the feeling I had. And I thought, oh, well, okay, it was 5:45 and now it's sort of 6:30, so I wasn't wired or upset for that short period. So it's good. So so with the meditation, if you practice it enough, you'll find, and I've mentioned this before, in situations that provoke anger or jealousy or attachment, you have this cognitive space sort of that you didn't have before. So it's the stimulus and the response. So you'll have this, instead of it being, well, gee, that person makes me angry, and then I'll yell at them, it'll be, oh, there's the person that makes me angry, and then there'll be this gap, and then that's where you have the opportunity to either yell at them or reflect on how you're feeling, take a few breaths, and you won't necessarily have to respond with anger. So that's the power of the meditation that you're doing. So it gives you a little bit of that cognitive space. So does anyone have any questions on that? Has anyone had any experience of that, where they've had sort of normally I'm angry all the time, and I was able to exhibit some level of control, or I didn't respond with anger? Yes?
So I've been coming here since October.
Oh, yes.
And something happened on Thursday where before coming here I would just blow up.
Yep.
But I really honestly found that exactly what you were talking about, that cognitive space. I was able to digest what happened, think about it, and then respond. I would never have been like that before.
Oh, it's great.
So I think it's all coming.
Oh, it's really good. Good. Thank you so much for saying that. It's very nice. But anyway, that's the from someone I don't know. So that's right. But that's the advantage of meditation. So that's one. There's a cognitive space, and it needn't be too much. Like you can have a microsecond, and it can turn to 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And so just in terms of, you said blowing up, so assuming something like anger. Yeah, so His Holiness, and we're using His Holiness the Dalai Lama's example, and I think I've mentioned this example before. He says, when I get angry, and you sort of, you go, well, it's got to be he's making it up. But he's talking about his staff, okay? So the people who look after him. And I'm sure he's a very strict taskmaster. That has to be done this way, this has to be done this way, this has to be done that way, like in terms of protocol and everything. And he mentioned that when he gets angry, he doesn't look at the person who's making him angry. He examines the anger, the emotion of anger that's welling up inside him. And then he says that when he examines it, the intensity of it dissipates. Because he's looking for it. Where is it? Can I find it? And then he finds, when his attention's not on the cause, the external cause, it's on the emotion. When he examines it, it just seems to lose its intensity, which is very strange, because when we think of anger, it's a very intense emotion, isn't it? It comes out of nowhere, it's dormant, it's hidden, and then all of a sudden, boom, anger, boom, like that. And then unfortunately, you can see how it drives a lot of harm, because you're just reacting in the moment, and can cause a lot of harm to other people. So that, anyway, His Holiness says that when he does that, it loses its intensity. So that's something else. So that's one technique, and the other one's another technique's the breath. So take a breath, pause, like you mentioned. So and then you might find the reaction that you have is not so intense. And the other thing, when you don't react with anger in an angry situation, you're preserving whatever happy mind that you have. You're protecting it. So that's important as well. So this is another teaching from Geshe Doga, that if you have a happy mind, whatever happy mind that is, you protect it, you guard it with whatever you can, however you can guard it, you guard it. You don't lose it, you don't let it deteriorate, because it's very hard to, when the mind dips, to bring it back up. It's not like snapping your fingers. It's because it's organic. So if it goes down, it's like, I think people have heard, depression, and we just spoke about anxiety. So effectively, for those people who have it, it's like, I'm going down and I'm looking up, and I can't see my way up. So it's very difficult. So if you can, by any means, stabilise your happiness or hold it, then that's the best, and then you can build on it. So that's important. Yep. Yeah. So for those of you who are new, so the meditation is one of the three wisdom tools that we talk about in Buddhism. So the first one is listening, or reading, or applying your mind to it. And then the second one is reflecting or contemplating, and the third one's meditation. So we have those three in order, and I've mentioned this previously. So you need to have a willingness to listen, because if you're like that, you're not wanting to listen, so it had no benefit. But if you're open, then that's the first step. The second one is to reflect on it or contemplate. So you have to have that step, because it has to be meaningful for you. So if you find, oh well, I've heard that Mark said this and that, but it makes no sense, then you've reached that conclusion, so that you won't go any further. So it has to be, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'll explore that a bit further. I'll look into that. That sort of sounds right. So that's very deeply personal. So unfortunately, you can't have the teacher or the Buddha doing that for you. So they can't learn for you, and they can't contemplate for you, and they can't obviously do the meditation for you. So that's all those three steps are down to you. So in Buddhism, where the tools are provided, and hopefully the examples that you've got great beings like Geshe Doga and the Dalai Lama there, you can sort of look and go, well, there's someone who's applied themselves and achieved a level of happiness, and they're saying that I can achieve that same state. So that's very important to believe as well. So you think, well, I'm just here, and the Dalai Lama's up here. There's no way. Well, the Dalai Lama's saying the opposite. He's saying, no, well, you're the same as me. You have a desire for happiness, a wish for happiness, and not wanting suffering. That's the same as me. Follow these methods, and you'll achieve that. So, anyway, that's a bit of background to it. But So I'll briefly cover the law of cause and effect. So in general terms, for beginners and for even students who have been going a while, the Buddha recommended that you try and just look at it in very broad general terms, and try not to get too caught up in the specifics of what is the karma of this, and what is the karma of that, and what's the karma of the other, because you run out of answers and ideas, because it's very deep and hidden. It's a hidden phenomenon, they say. So, but you can hold these principles. So a positive action will lead to a positive result, and a negative action will lead to a negative result. So if you hold those two, then you've understood in broad terms the idea of karma. So then, if that's the case, and I'll pose this question to the audience, should you always see then that a person with a virtuous mind or experiencing only good conditions. Kerry, you're saying no? They still need to learn and grow, yes. What about someone who's totally immoral but is lauded, beautiful, rich, wealthy? So what's that karma? What's happening there? Yes, Ingrid. Yes, Ingrid, a time lag effect. Say some more. Yep.
So, maybe someone who is behaving in a non-virtuous way, like perhaps taking advantage of others, or engaging in criminal behaviour that seems to be reaping rewards now. The rewards are not a result of the criminal behaviour; they're a result of past good actions, perhaps even from the past life.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So Ingrid's answered the question very well there. So if you're understanding the principle of positive action will lead to a positive result, and a negative action will lead to a negative result. Aligned with that concept is the idea that there is rebirth. So it's not just occurring in the one life. So you'll have, as Ingrid said, they did something virtuous in a previous life. This life they seem to be very immoral, and that virtuous karma is ripened so that they become recognised or lauded or wealthy, whatever. When we look at them, we go, oh, that person's not very good, very nice. They're not good to their family. They have all elements that we see are relatively negative, but yet all this good karma appears to be ripening on them. So that's the if you like, the ripening coming from a previous life, the karmic ripening. So we say that in this human realm that we have, a positive action in this life can lead to a result in this life, but it's more likely that it'll ripen in another lifetime. So it's the same from something you created in the past. Does everyone understand that concept? So it's not very easy because you have to have some. Oh well, all right. I can see I've got one life here, but then they're talking about past lives and future lives. But that's how they work in tandem: the law of cause and effect and rebirth, if you like. So this is probably for the older students. What's the main determinant of a good rebirth in the future? Sorry? Merit? Yes, merit. Morals? Good morals, yes. Good morals? Ethics, yes. So if you want a good human rebirth, then leading a moral life is the main principal cause of that. So we've all seen animals that are seemingly surrounded by wealth. Horse races, can you think of any that generate a lot of wealth? So Winx. What was the filly? The one before that, Winx. Black Caviar. So there's two in recent now. What were they? 30 races each or something with an unbeaten run. So they had the karma to attract wealth because they kept winning, but they weren't born as human beings, so they could utilise it. So we say that the result of them being born as a horse or an animal in that case was their moral code or their ethics wasn't good. And that's what ripened. So they had the good karma for wealth, if you like, but not to be born as a human. So, yes, question?
What if they were a lesser animal and they were reborn into a racehorse, which was a good karma?
Yeah, could be. Yeah. So that's true too. Yep. But we use that example because as Lynn and Ingrid have said, the principal cause to being reborn as a human is good ethics. So And look, I love animals, so having had a dog for a while, and I was looking after my daughter and her partner got 2 kelpies, and they were staying with us for about a month. So I have a real appreciation for animals and looking after them and caring for them. So, but there's a certain with a dog anyway. There's a certain mental limitation, like they can't read, they can't meditate, they can't. There's a certain limitation to what they can do. What they do, they're fabulous, but I can see it that they can't do certain things because they're born in that state. So human beings, from that point of view, are very fortunate. But sorry, go on. Yep. Yes, so the question from the lady is, if they're reborn as an animal, can they be reborn as a human? Yes, they can. So they can purify that karma of being born as an animal, and they sort of use it up, and then hopefully if they're around you, and you're creating merit, and you're caring for them, and they're happy and content and everything, then hopefully they'll be reborn as a human, and hopefully not just a human in an autocratic society where there's gulags and all the rest of it, but in a good human rebirth where they're free, they're happy, they're healthy, they've got resources, etc. Their mind's open. So, yes.
Does that all assume that humans are the highest form of being?
That's a good question, actually. Does it assume that the humans are the highest form of being? Well, that's it would be very arrogant to say that the humans are, but I think definitely with the human realm, the human beings on the southern continent, because we have the mind, that very good mind that's critical and can think its way out of things and utilise the mind, and we're not totally ensconced in like a pleasure dome. We can actually see, well, even if things are so pleasurable, there's still an element of suffering in them, and we're not totally enmeshed in, it's so much suffering, I can't do anything else but suffer. So we're in that nice where we can see. So there is some very good advantages to being born as a human being, and in Buddhism they say that there are several realms, and the human being's sort of in there, and it's probably the best one to achieve enlightenment from, but it's not an escalator going up and up and up until you get to the final destination. So that's a difference between perhaps some other schools of thought where they say, well, I was an Indian chief, and before that I was Cleopatra's guard or something like. There's all these famous beings. That's who I was, and then I'm going up and up and up. So it's like no, it's not like that. They say it can be. Oh well, I had a good human rebirth. Then I killed my mother and father, or something heinous. I'm talking about, and then it's like if that karma ripens, then not a very good rebirth. So that anyway, that's a Buddhist concept, that your actions determine where you're reborn and what you're reborn as. And as Ingrid and Lynn said, the main arbiter of a good human rebirth is good ethics. So that's very important to keep in mind. So, yes.
Can I just add to this lady's question? I think that the human rebirth is considered the most favourable, but that doesn't mean that animals are considered a lesser, that their life is any less precious. So it's not like that humans are considered above animals, like each sentient being is considered to be, their life is precious to them.
Yeah. So with the Buddha nature that we're sort of alluding to, the ultimate state of the human being is this Buddhahood, and so we have this Buddha nature, this ability or this potential. So all the animals have that too, and all the other beings that we can and can't see have that as well. It's just the human realm. So we have the ability to actually achieve, manifest that potential, whereas an animal more than likely not. So they still have that Buddha nature, but then they can't realise it as an ant, as such. So what if there are no future lives? Do you have to worry about creating good karma or bad karma? No. If it was just one life, you wouldn't have to worry about, well, when I die, this will happen, or when I do a good action, a good result will come. So, because your life's, if you have that belief, your life's extinguished. That's it. And then I was even listening on The Drum this evening. They had a quantum physicist. He was talking about time, and he was saying that the core belief of science is that when the time of death, that's the end of the life. There's no continuum that goes on. So in Buddhism we have the opposite view. Say, well, at the time of death, the karma ripens, and then the mind stream goes on to another rebirth. So there's, anyway, it's another thing to think about. So you're talking about how the mechanism for the rebirth being the good karma, the good ethics to get a good rebirth. So does anyone have any other questions? They're all good questions, actually. Yep. Yes.
Still on the topic of animals and the higher states of being and whatnot. So if I'm a cat, I'm basically stuck in the animal world and future lives and whatnot. Rebirth and ethics and control what I do.
Well, so the question is around, say, an example of a cat can't control what they do, and so are they going to be stuck in that animal realm or forever? Every rebirth, is it just going to be cat or something like a cat or another animal? So one of the things is that once that karma to be an animal is exhausted, if another karma manifests that we call it throwing karma at the point of death. So, human being, from a virtuous action you committed as previously, before, so you go, that ripens, you'll be born as something else. So hopefully a human being. So, and also with cats and all pets actually, not all of them are in the same boat, like as in they're all, eating birds or having to hunt for their food. In fact, with most dogs, the domestic dogs, there's no hunting at all. It's like, bring me dinner, it's sort of... So, and it's probably the same with the cat too, they don't necessarily have to be predators, even though they probably, if you let them out, they will, but you can, you can feed them, have them around you, be good to them, they're good to you back, etc. So there's an element of, if you like, of them creating good karma as well, and also exhausting their karma to be an animal. So it's a little bit of that. It's not infinite. I'm an animal. I'm a cat. I'll always be a cat. So it's the same with I'm a human now. I'll always be a human. Not necessarily. So it's not. So if you like, it's not the up escalator, and it's not the. What's the one at the airport? Travelator. It's not the travelator. So it's good. Yeah. So it's not that either. So in Buddhism, it can go up and down, up and down, up and down. So depending on the causes and conditions that each of us create. So there was an example of there was an old around the time of the Buddha. At the time of the Buddha, there was an old. I think he was an old servant, and he wanted to become a monk. And the Buddhas, and no one wanted to ordain him because they just said, this guy's too old, he's not very smart, he's not going to get it, he's not going to be any good. And I think it was the Buddha, so someone who knows more can correct me, but I think they said, oh yes, when you were a fly, you landed on a piece of dung and it was floating around the outside of the stupa, around and around. And so you created merit by just landing on that piece of dung that was floating around the sewer, going round and round, and that's enough for me to ordain you. So there's, if you like, a quirky karma that you go, well, did I do anything? Well, I landed on that piece of dung, and then, therefore I created this karma. So it can happen. So it's not the travelator, and it's not the up escalator. It can be up and down, but that was a case where up, and so that man. Sorry, go on. He didn't. I think the Buddha said to him, "Oh, I remember you were a fly, and this is what happened to you. So you've got enough good karma for me to ordain you." So that's the punchline of the story. So the Buddha actually, with his omniscience, was able to go, "Oh yeah, you did create some good karma, so I can ordain you now." So that's a very, very, very big digression. But anyway, but it just goes to show. So it's nothing's fixed, as in it's permanent. Travelator, escalator can be up and down, and hopefully for us, it's perfect human rebirth, taking advantage of it, lifetime after lifetime, and then achieving Buddhahood for everyone's sake. So that's the potential, and that's what His Holiness says. You have to have love and compassion for others. The most important thing, have that. So, okay, I think we'll finish there. So we'll do a little bit of meditation, and then we'll wind up. So we'll do some more breathing meditation just to get another feel for it. So back straight. Hands on your lap, thumbs touching, pointing back, sort of back towards just underneath your navel, and then your arms out a little bit, and then eyes sort of just slightly open to allow the impression of light, your mouth closed, tongue on the top palate, and you can just breathe through your nostrils, and you can do the same as before, just for a few breaths. You can breathe in enlightened energy, and that can be in the form of colours, lights, nectars, sound, feeling, whatever you're drawn to. And then as you're breathing out, any concerns or worries or anxiety. So do that for a few breaths. And then bring your attention just on the sensation of the breath as it's going in and out through your nostrils, and just try and hold your focus on that. So just bring your attention back to the room and open your eyes. I didn't do the refuge and generating bodhicitta prayer at the beginning, but you can imagine that I did. So, not tick it off as a mistake. So it's like, anyway, I did preface it by saying it's the beginning of the Tibetan New Year, so we've got His Holiness sitting behind me, so it's all good. But we can dedicate. So again, it's a multiplying day, 15 days worth, Tibetan New Year. It's the metal mouse year, so if you're interested, you can look that up. So the dedication we'll do is pretty much the highest form of dedication you can do. So you're dedicating not just for your own happiness and benefit, but for everyone. So there's two types of this sort of mind. There's two types. One's aspirational. That's a big type of mind to have. It's too all-encompassing and universal. I can't do it. So you have this aspirational mind where I'll mouth the words and think about it. And then there's the second one, which is more engaging. Well, I'll do the actions that go with that sort of aspiration. So we can fit into either, or both. We can do both or either, so it's good. So anyway, I'll read the words. So, may I quickly become Guru Lord Buddha and lead each and every sentient being into their enlightened realm because of these merits. May the Supreme Jewel Bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen never diminish but increase more and more. So thank you everyone. There's some cake and tea in the dining room, so all the best.